And I wanted to say that I had this sort of a hit about I'll be driving in my car to work, and I had to drive a lot this weekend because I worked a lot this weekend. And I was thinking about how, well, I've had this idea for quite a while, and I was going to talk about it on that one show I did, but I forgot, and there wasn't time anyway. But how this whole time, in fact, okay, so this whole thing, this whole conflict going on right now in the Middle East, um, saying, the Christians are saying, yay, finally, it's going to be the rapture, and we're all going to be, unalived, and us good people, the chosen ones, will go to with Jesus and just go into a pit of hell or whatever the heck it's supposed to be. 4 years ago, and I worked at a library for a while. Um, the Tim LaHaye series, the Rapture, was or no, a different name, but it was about the Rapture, but it was by Tim LaHaye, I believe, and it was this whole series. People were really into it, and then they made a movie. And I always kind of get a bit of a giggle with when I see a thing of like people being lifted up into this spiritual tornado and lifted up into heaven. And see, okay, so my origins are as a little girl. I was had a very very 45 like frump like psychopathic father who had major issues, and he was in a religious cult. And you could say that it was his one saving grace, except for the fact that it was a cult. And Jim Jones type of, this is probably why I'm so obsessed with Jim Jones, um, and why I see right through 45. I have seen through 45 from the very beginning because of my dad and because of the whole cult thing. Well, anyway, and then finally it was a huge war. My parents almost killed each other because my dad was a psychopath and was a horrible person to us, and I was terrified of him. And so they had a huge war one day, and my dad left, and there was, thank God, divorce can be really good. And but then my mother, having been raised Catholic, we were full on Catholic after that, and then that's kind of like a cult. Although I do like many things about the Catholic religion, like saints and angels. Jesus, I believe in Jesus as like a man, and yes, as Son of God, but we're all part of God. We all have the light of Christ inside us. But Jesus was sent down. There's been many Jesus here, okay? But that particular Jesus was sent at a specific time when humanity needed to ascend in a great way because we were going down a dark path. Like the Romans and everyone else were doing horrible things, greed, and using the name of God in vain, uh, using God's name as a way to punish and stifle spiritual learning and knowledge. And anyway, Jesus always is the light is to teach us about compassion. And so, anyway, getting beyond myself here, but a lot of people talk about old Bible verses and forgetting that, like, okay, so the old, like King James Bible, the old Bible will say an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, which would incite war, right? I can beat you up because you did something to me, so I can beat you up. But the thing about it is, an eye for an eye makes you blind. And Jesus came down and uh, hit me on one, smack me on the face on one side, and I'll turn and you can smack me on the other side. And people say, well, that's being a weakling, and that's just asking for people to hit you, and that's just, you're being, I won't say the word, but you're being passive and pacifist, and stand up for yourself, and don't let someone hit you. Live and let die. Um, but why did Jesus, if someone smacks you on one cheek, turn and let them smack the other? Why did he do that? I had this the other day. Why did Jesus come back to me in the spirit? Why did Jesus say that? It's really the other side's lesson to learn. Because who's stronger? The person smacking, the person being smacked. In my opinion, if you can restrain yourself from violence, it's very easy for all of us to go, like, look at road rage. I mean, we all yell, all these things. We get irate behind the wheel of the car every day, all of us. Look how fast we can get irritated and annoyed, and um, it's much stronger to uphold peace Doesn't mean you have to be passive, but it's much, much harder and stronger to uphold the ways of peace than it is to smack someone. It's really easy to smack someone and get out of control. Um, that's what that means. It doesn't mean that you should really let people smack you around all the time. You should find ways and not hang out with people like that that would smack you. But it's really weak to resort to violence. And the only way the only way you can refrain from resorting to violence is to not resort to violence, not imbibing and joining in violence. So let's say if Jesus smacked somebody, violent, we'd be talking right now about how violent he was. But he didn't do that. He taught peace, which is really hard. So that's what he was telling us. That's what all the versions of Christ told us. Peace. You can't have peace with violence and war. Yes, you can install peace in a violent area with, like, Nazi Germany is finally going over us and the Russians and others helping. Um, that was by holding someone accountable, Hitler. But as a general rule, the only way you're ever going to have peace is if you are peaceful and you show peace. So anyway, I was saying about the rapture. Go back to the rapture if you're still with me. Concern. I grew up in Catholic church and I had to hear many sermons. So the rapture. When we come here to earth, we're here in this body. And it is a lesson. It is a school. Much trial and error, much pain. We're stuck in time. On the other side, time is nothing. So we're stuck in the time and physical limitations, sickness, war, money, elements of the earth, society, and everything else. Very hard. It's a lot of lessons. We evolve. Our goal here on earth, our mission each time here to earth is to spiritually evolve. Now, why would you do that? It's because when we die physically, if you don't die spiritually, but when we die and pass on to the other, we give the universe, God, what our spiritual knowledge. So let's say we all die and we go through the light and we have a life review and God said, "What did you bring me?" And if all you ever did was read your Bible all day, which that can be like a monk up in the Timbuktu chanting all day. So I don't think that's a horrible thing. But I think that people who refuse to grow spiritually and refuse to do anything outside of the Bible in almost like a defiant, angry way, and see themselves as better than other human beings, spiritually, mentally, everything else. There's something wrong with that. The only way you'll ever go to the other side with something for God is if you actually open yourself up and say, "I'm willing to learn. I'm here. I'm willing to learn." So you go through this life, trial and error and everything else, and you learn and you spiritually evolve and you say, "Oh my God, I did this to this person. I'm devastated. I hate that I did that to them. Tomorrow I'm going to try to be a better human being. I really hate that I did that. I'm really upset with myself. I never wanted to cause them that pain ever again." And then one day you say, "Oh my God, I just saw someone on the street. They're homeless. What can I do? What can I do?" And you say, "Well, how about you go to them some McDonald's, or you give them $5, or you donate food whenever you can. Maybe you can't all the time, but if you can, donate some food. Hey, I feel like I'm a better person now." And each time you something and you grow, right? See somebody who's handicapped and you say, "Oh my God, I don't want to ever make their lives horrible. I want their lives to be better." So when I get jerk and seeing them as lesser than, I'll see that they taught me something about how they're teaching me the ways to love in a deeper way, to love people who aren't just quote unquote hands, feet, talk, eyes, everything's perfect, quote unquote perfect. Um, so you go through all these things in your life, You have a heartache, you break someone's heart, they break your heart, you have financial things, you have sickness, you have children, everything, and the earth itself, and animals, and we go through all these things, and each thing teaches us how to be a better human being, but only if we say, I'm willing. Only if we say we're willing to be better human beings. Only if we recognize that, no, we're not horrible people, we make mistakes, but after that mistake, it's what you do that counts. And you say, tomorrow, hope that I'm a better human being, and I hope I never make that mistake again. But if I do, I hope that I'm forgiven. And I forgive others who've done the same because now I know that I did it. So I can forgive them because I would like to be forgiven. Spiritual knowledge and spiritual growth is that moment when you say, I did something that hurt another living being, creature, and I'm devastated. I feel their pain and I never want to be in pain again. So now tomorrow I'm going to be a better person. That's Christ consciousness. That's evolving. That's the me life. That's why we're here. So you go to the other side and God says, what did you bring me? And you say, well, I learned that I really want to be a better human being. And he or she says, well, how did you do that? Well, after my mother died, I thought about all the things I'd said and did, that she said and did, and then I took walks, meditated, and exercised, and I was kind. I was kinder to people. I was kinder to myself. What did you learn about yourself? And that is not about my body, and it's not about money, and it's not about all these thoughts that's inside of all of us, and that we're all connected. So that's what still evolution is realizing that through all of this, we're really all connected by the cords of love, and we're all. That's why we don't hate each other. That's why we have compassion for it, because whatever we do to each other, we do to ourselves, and we do to God, or what have you. Spiritual evolution is realizing that we're all connected through pain and joy and love. Anyway, it's getting, getting crazier, but the point being, we each have that journey and we each spiritually evolve. And that as we evolve as humans on this earth, we also spiritually evolve, not physically evolve, but spiritually evolve. And so my theory is that, you know how like in the beginning of time there was darkness, right? And it says that in the Bible there was darkness and then let there be light. And God brought light. What is light though? It's not just sunlight. It's the light of compassion. It's the light of understanding. It's the light of knowledge. You might say of being awoken, of being awake. And so in the beginning, in the dawn of time, it's that word, the dawn, where we began to have light. There was no universe, no God, no humans, no anything, no earth, nothing, no thoughts, no justice, no compassion, nothing. The light was our journey of compassion and learning and spiritual evolution. So where we grow on this earth, not just physically evolving as humans, but spiritually evolving, the universe is expanding too, and the universe has expanded and spirit with us. And we got to a point here where we were all spiritually evolving to a really high point, not all, but many of us. And then it got reversed, you know, who in the dark and everything trying to bring us back down because we got too evolved. Well, anyway, so the universe has always been evolving with us from the dawn of time. When you think about atom and Eve, and the Eve of Adam are atoms in our cells, atom and Eve, the dawn of time, the light of knowledge, growing, expanding. So we go, we die, we go to the other side. That's what'd you bring me? Because I'm hungry and I'm expanding, I'm always evolving. What did you bring me? And you say, I brought you my pain. I brought you love and heartache. That's what spiritual evolution is. The universe has always been expanding with us. The universe has always been expanding with us. The universe started as nothing and it grew with us. And each life and each death would expand the universe. That's why we each have a spiritual evolution, because we're part of the God consciousness and the universe, and we keep evolving. That's why we don't want to de-evolve, because that destroys the universe. And that's why my theory, getting to my original about the rapture, is you don't want a rapture. People romanticize the rapture all these years. Oh God, I hope it happens to me. You don't want it. You don't want it, because that means the end of everything. That means the universe has been done, expanding. The universe is done. Then it becomes a vacuum and it dies and we die. On a rapture. The rapture means the end. So when everybody's all again, yay, World War III, the rapture, we're all gonna, no. The rapture means it's over. The rapture means we're all dead and the universe is done because it's done learning. You don't want a rapture. What you want is a hungry universe. It's always that you're continuously feeding with your spiritual evolution. You don't want war. War, yes, war can teach many lessons, but we don't want world war. Don't you think that at this point we'd be evolved enough to not have a stupid war? Are we so dumb now that we think war is a good idea? The bombing nuke is a good idea? That didn't happen. What happened was we got terrorized by a mental war, which I think we all see through now. Let me also say this, that when you lie to people, that is the anti-universe, because it's, of course, the dark side would trick you, right, into a lie, into fear. The dark side will also trick you into a state of fear. You don't want to run. What you want is to always evolve and to wake up every day and to say, "What? Who am I? I want to do better. I want to love better. I want to love deeper. I want to understand love more. How do I understand love more?" The only way to do that is with an open heart. And that's why I say, if you don't have an open heart, you ain't getting into heaven, because heaven is your heart. The only key into heaven is an open heart. So if you are watching women, fathers, and children being dragged out of their cars and put into a vehicle and sent to a concentration camp, and you're saying fear, violence, destruction, hate, that's, your heart's not open. The only way into heaven is to have an open. And I would say that the only way that you are a sinner is if you are sinning against your own self and having a closed heart. So open your heart, be compassionate. The universe expanding, and we expand with it. We spiritually evolve. That's what I wanted to talk about tonight. Thanks for listening.